A couple of days ago, we received an email from one of our subscribers called Tim, and he wanted to discuss 2 points in particular. And the first one was Graham Potter as West Ham manager so far, suggesting that perhaps he's been unlucky. And the second one was in relation to Jarrod Bowen. Now, the email was well written and well reasoned, but there's little I can do with that. So I went back to Tim and said, would you mind turning this into a video, because it doesn't really agree with myself or Gonzo per se, and I think that's good. I think that's healthy. Tim very kindly done so. So why am I doing an intro for Tim's video? For context, because I've asked him to do this, and you can send in a fan cam as well. You will have seen Mark, you will have seen Mike. They don't do those because we asked them specifically to do them. Anyone is welcome to do a fan cam. Just get your phone out in landscape mode, get your lighting as good as possible. I'm not going to say good because mine's not always the best. As long as we can see you and hear you and you articulate your point decent enough, we're happy. Record it, send it in to us. Our email address is in the description below, and we'll put it up on YouTube. And just as a note, me and Gonzo do the thumbnail and titles of the fan cams. On a couple of videos recently, we've had people criticising the person doing the fan cam for the title of the video. They don't do that. That's myself and Gonzo. So point your anger at us two, please, and not towards Mark, Mike, Steve, Chris, Tim, whoever it is. It's our fault. Anyway, this is Tim's fan cam discussing why he thinks Potter's been unlucky and a topic that he feels is required to discuss around Jarrod Bowen. I enjoyed it. I hope you do too.
A couple of unpopular opinions today that I thought I'd post after having a bit of a email chat with Gio. The first is, I think Potter's getting a lot of stick for his football and the results and all the rest of it. But the more I reflect on this, the more I just think we've had one of the unluckiest seasons that I can even remember. And I put that as a frame of reference to seasons we've had in the recent past where my overwhelming thought was we were actually lucky. I think in the Bilic years and in the Moyes years, we've had some very lucky seasons where the rub of the green has gone our way. I can remember numerous games where we were battered and we nicked the odd goal and we were all ecstatic and walked away with a win. And you could argue some of that might have been tactics under Moyes. But despite that, I still think we've been a lucky team the last few years, and certainly in the European runs and those seasons, I think we were a very lucky team. And I think the exact opposite has happened this year. We've been a very, very unlucky team. We've had numerous mistakes, which you can argue is possibly quality of players, but often mistakes go unpunished in games, and 9 times out of 10, when we've made a mistake in a game, they've been punished. I mean, we've lost balls in midfield and teams have 1 or 2 passes and it's in the back of the net. We've often done that to other teams and they would deem themselves unlucky. So I think overwhelmingly, and this is a very simplistic view, but when you reflect on the season, I think we've been very, very unlucky. So many games where we've had last minute goals against us, which has allowed us to drop points. I mentioned defenders making mistakes, hitting the post. I mean, missing goals when we should have scored. I suppose that maybe a way to measure luck might be to look at kind of expected goals per game kind of stats. But despite that, you're never going to really get to it. You only understand that when you watch every game of the season, which is pretty much what I've done. So yes, I think we've been unlucky. You could also argue that you make your own luck. I'm recording this from South Africa, and Gary Player, a famous South African, famously said you make your own luck. But I think in golf you can, because you can practice and get better. And there's only so much you can do in a football match to avert that luck, and I think we've been incredibly unlucky. Also, I think when you look at Potter's football, Potter said a few weeks back in a presser that we've been competitive in every game, or in almost every game. And I think that's true. And if you look at the games we've had against the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, we beat Newcastle, even the Spurs game now, when nobody really cared, we were competitive, and we've been competitive in pretty much every game. And to me, that is far better than some of the dross that Moyes particularly served up when we were playing the Sky Sports top six. And even, I mean, we would go into games and, as Gonzo would say, kind of lie down, have our tummy tickled and lose 6-0. And the amount of times that happened is ridiculous. And as fans, we should never expect that. At least under Potter, we've been competitive. And even under Lopetegui, I think the football improved slightly, but we went into a lot of the games under Lopetegui with no hope in hell of winning. That we were not competitive in those games. We were just passing the ball for the sake of passing it. And you could argue to a degree some of Potter's football's been like that, but at least we've been competitive, in my opinion. So I think that's the first point I wanted to make, was that I don't think it's as dire as everybody seems. And if we'd have kind of had a little bit of that luck go our way, we easily could be 10, 12, 15 points better off, and nobody really would be saying anything. So I think, on reflection, an incredibly unlucky season. The second opinion is probably a lot more controversial, even though the first one might be, is that I think we made a huge mistake. Well, Moyes made a huge mistake. Let's blame Moyes on this one, making Bowen captain. There's no doubt in my mind that Bowen is the best player we have. He's an incredibly nice guy, but the best player doesn't necessarily make the best captain. And I don't see Bowen at all as a leader of men. I certainly haven't seen that this season. And again, I'm not knocking his character by any stretch of the imagination. But for me, a captain needs to be down the spine of a team, needs to be involved. And having Bowen isolated on the right-hand side for much of the season and not really being involved and not getting in the ref's face and not motivating players has also had a huge impact as to how we've performed this season. Again, if I look at the Moyes era and the Bilic era, you had Mark Noble as an incredible captain who would drag players up by the scruff of the neck and pull them through games. And if somebody had made a mistake, he would be in their ear telling them to carry on and get going and fix it. We don't see that from Bowen necessarily. And I did see it to a degree when Souček was captain. For the few games Bowen was out, he was certainly more in the ref's face. He was fighting for the cause. And again, if you look at Bowen, he leads by example, but that doesn't mean he's a good leader. I mean, he's incredible in games, but does that mean that he's the best captain? I don't think he is. And I also don't think it's going to be very easy to fix that, because changing a captain, unless Bowen potentially went to Potter and said, listen, I don't think this is working, I don't think you fix that very easily. And I also don't know who you'd put in his place. Certainly in terms of the team we've got at the moment, I mean, the only one I could think of would be Souček, but I think he'll probably move on. So we may need to buy a captain. But again, how you architect that within a team where you've already got a captain is going to be challenging. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth for the day. Hope you enjoyed that, and you can slaughter me in the comments. Cheers, lads.